Ambassador Dae-hyun sat in his office on the space station when the emergency message came through. The red light on his desk flashed 3 times, which meant something very bad had happened. He pressed the button to receive the transmission. The hologram showed Captain Ji-won's face. She looked tired and scared. "Ambassador, we have a serious problem. Haven's Rest colony has gone completely silent. No radio signals, no transport ships, nothing. It's like the whole planet just stopped existing." Dae-hyun felt his stomach drop. Haven's Rest was home to over 2 million people. It was a peaceful farming world that grew food for 12 other systems. When did they last make contact? 3 days ago. They sent a routine farming report, then mentioned some strange ships in their system. After that, nothing. Ji-won's image flickered. "I'm taking the Soul's Pride to investigate. We should arrive in 6 hours. Be careful, Captain. If something happened to that many people, we need to know what we're dealing with." 6 hours later, Dae-hyun received another call from Ji-won. This time her face was pale and her hands were shaking. "Ambassador, you need to see this. I'm sending the data now." The images that appeared on Dae-hyun's screen made him feel sick. The main city of Haven's Rest lay in ruins. Buildings were destroyed, but not by bombs or explosions. They looked like they had been carefully taken apart piece by piece. Bodies lay everywhere in the streets, my God, Dae-hyun whispered. "What happened here?" Ji-won's voice was quiet. "It gets worse. My science officer Hyunwoo did some tests. Every single person on this planet is dead. All 2.3 million of them. Men, women, children, babies, old people, everyone." Dae-hyun closed his eyes. "How, war? Disease? No, sir. They were all killed on purpose. Someone or something went through this planet and murdered every living person. But here's the strange part. They didn't just kill them. They cut them open and took specific body parts. Heart, liver, brain, some other organs. Like they were harvesting them." The ambassador felt cold. "Any idea who did this?" "We found something. Large crystal towers set up around the city. They're broadcasting a message in broken galactic standard language. The translation is rough, but it says something like tribute or die. The Veltar Collective claims this sector." "Veltar? I've never heard of them." Ji-won nodded. "Neither had I, but Hyunwoo found some evidence. Footprints, tool marks, DNA traces. Whatever these Veltar are, they're not human. The DNA shows they're insectoid. Probably about 7 feet tall with 4 arms and natural armor plating." Dae-hyun rubbed his forehead. A headache was starting. "What else did you find?" "The really scary part, sir. This wasn't random violence. This was organized, efficient, planned. They knew exactly what they wanted and how to get it. The way they killed people and took their organs suggests they have advanced medical knowledge and technology. And the message about tribute? That's what worries me most. This feels like a demonstration. Like they wanted to show the galaxy what they can do. Pay us tribute or we'll do this to your world too." Dae-hyun stood up and walked to his window. Outside, he could see ships from dozens of different alien species docking at the station. All these different races had learned to live together in peace. Now something new had arrived. Something that killed without mercy. "Captain, I need you to collect as much evidence as possible. DNA samples, recordings from the crystal towers, any technology they left behind. We need to know everything about these Veltar." "Already on it, sir. But Ambassador, there's something else. My communications officer, Minji, intercepted some data fragments from the colony's main computer. Before they died, the colonists managed to record part of the attack." "Show me." The video was grainy and broken, but Dae-hyun could see enough. Tall insect-like creatures moved through the streets with terrible purpose. They carried advanced weapons that seemed to be alive, pulsing and moving like organs. When they killed someone, they immediately began cutting them open with surgical precision. But what really frightened Dae-hyun was how organized they were. These weren't wild animals attacking randomly. They moved like soldiers following a plan. They knew exactly what they wanted from each body, and took it quickly before moving to the next victim. "How long did the attack take?" he asked. "Based on the timestamps, about 4 hours. 4 hours to completely eliminate 2.3 million people and harvest what they wanted from the bodies." Dae-hyun felt sick again. "That's impossible. No military force could work that fast. Unless you have enough soldiers and the right technology. Hyunwoo estimates they would need at least 50,000 attackers to cover the planet that quickly." 50,000? That's not a raiding party. That's an invasion force. "Yes, sir. And if they can field that many soldiers for one farming planet, how many do they have total?" The question hung in the air. Dae-hyun thought about all the peaceful worlds in this sector. Billions of people living their lives, raising families, never expecting something like this. Captain, return to base immediately. I'm calling an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Every species in the galaxy needs to know about this threat. Understood. But sir, what if they attack again while we're traveling back? Then God help whoever they choose next. After ending the call, Daehyun sat alone in his office. He looked at the data again, hoping he had missed something, hoping it wasn't as bad as it seemed. But the numbers didn't lie. 2.3 million innocent people were dead, killed by creatures that seemed to view other species as nothing more than sources of useful body parts. He activated his emergency communicator and sent a priority message to every member of the Galactic Council. Emergency session required. New hostile species has committed genocide against human colony. Immediate threat to all civilized worlds. Please attend session in 12 hours. As he prepared to leave for the council chambers, Daehyun thought about the message the Veltar had left behind. Tribute or die. It was simple and direct. Give us what we want or we'll kill everyone on your planet and take what we need from your bodies. He wondered how the other species would react. Would they be as horrified as he was? Would they want to fight back? Or would they consider paying tribute to avoid the same fate as Haven's Rest? One thing was certain. The galaxy would never be the same again. The age of peace was over. The great chamber of the Galactic Council was filled with nervous energy. Representatives from 848 different species sat in their designated areas, talking quietly among themselves. Ambassador Daehyun had never seen so many aliens look frightened at the same time. Captain Ji-won stood next to him as they prepared to present their evidence. Her ship had returned with detailed scans, DNA samples, and recordings from Haven's Rest. The proof was undeniable. Something terrible had come to their galaxy. Taemin, the human representative to the council, called for order. The chamber slowly became quiet as hundreds of different voices stopped talking. Fellow beings, we face a crisis unlike anything we have encountered before. Ambassador Daehyun will present the evidence. Daehyun activated the holographic display in the center of the chamber. Images of the destroyed colony appeared, floating in the air where everyone could see them. Many representatives made sounds of shock and horror. Some of the more sensitive species had to look away. 3 days ago, the human colony of Haven's Rest was completely destroyed. Every single inhabitant was killed and over 2 million innocent people. This was not a natural disaster or an accident. This was deliberate murder on a massive scale. The display showed the crystal towers broadcasting their message. The alien voice speaking broken galactic standard filled the chamber. Tribute or die. The Veltar Collective claims this sector. Elder Crix of the Anthari species spoke first. His crystalline body was glowing with fear. This is terrible news. But perhaps we should consider what these Veltar want. If they demand tribute, maybe we can negotiate with them. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Daehyun felt his heart sink. They were already talking about giving in. Elder Crix, he said. These creatures killed over 2 million innocent people. They harvested their organs like they were farming animals. This isn't a situation for negotiation. Counselor Yeth of the Braxi species raised several of their tentacles to speak. But what choice do we have? My people are peaceful traders. We cannot fight such monsters. If paying tribute keeps us alive, then we must consider it. More voices joined in agreement. The Zephyrian delegate suggested setting up tribute zones. The Kalari representative proposed a lottery system to choose which worlds would pay. The Himari counselor recommended offering the Veltar uninhabited planets instead. Daehyun listened in growing horror as species after species spoke in favor of appeasement. These were civilizations that had built great cities, created beautiful art, and made amazing scientific discoveries. Now they were talking about feeding people to monsters to save themselves. You're all missing the point, he said loudly. The Veltar didn't ask for money or resources. They took human organs. They harvested body parts from children. This isn't about tribute. This is about them seeing us as food. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some species insisted that negotiation was always possible. Others claimed that any deal was better than death. A few suggested that humans were being too emotional and not thinking logically. General Vorthak of the mighty Gorvani hegemony stood up. His armor clanked as he moved. The Gorvani were known throughout the galaxy as fierce warriors, so everyone listened when he spoke. I have studied the data, he said in his deep voice. These Veltar are efficient killers with advanced technology. My military advisors estimate they could destroy any single species within months. Perhaps tribute is the wisest course. If even the Gorvani were talking about surrender, Daehyun knew the situation was hopeless. The strongest military force in the galaxy was ready to pay protection money to avoid a fight. Captain Ji-won stepped forward. General Vorthak, with respect, your advisors are wrong. My science officer analyzed their attack patterns. The Veltar aren't just demanding tribute. They're planning to harvest the entire galaxy. The organs they took suggest they use biological technology. They need a constant supply of living beings to power their civilization. You cannot know that for certain, said Counselor Mesh of the Telkari Empire. Perhaps they only need a small amount of tribute. Many species could contribute a few individuals each year. A few individuals? Daehyun's voice echoed through the chamber. You're talking about sacrificing innocent people to murderers. How do you decide who lives and who dies? Do you hold a lottery? Do you choose the sick and elderly? Do you offer up children? The chamber fell silent. Many representatives looked uncomfortable, but none of them changed their position. High Priestess Yalara of the Cosmic Faith Coalition spoke in her melodic voice. Ambassador, we understand your anger. But sometimes the greater good requires difficult choices. If sacrificing a few saves billions, then that sacrifice has meaning. No, Daehyun said firmly. There is no meaning in feeding innocent people to monsters. There is no greater good that comes from rewarding murder with tribute. Elder Crix's crystalline form flickered. Then what do you propose? That we fight creatures who can eliminate 2.3 million people in 4 hours? That we risk the destruction of all our civilizations for the sake of principle? Yes, Daehyun said simply. Some things are worth fighting for. Some lines cannot be crossed. If we pay tribute to the Veltar, we become partners in their crimes. The debate continued for hours. Species after species spoke in favor of negotiation. They used words like pragmatic and realistic and necessary compromise. But Daehyun heard what they really meant. They were too scared to fight. Finally, Taemin called for a vote. All in favor of attempting to negotiate a tribute arrangement with the Veltar Collective? Hands, tentacles, claws, and other appendages rose throughout the chamber. Daehyun watched in disgust as 847 species voted to appease the killers. All opposed? Only one hand went up. Taemin's own hand representing humanity. The motion passes, Taemin announced. The Galactic Council will send a diplomatic delegation to negotiate with the Veltar Collective. As the other representatives began discussing the details of their surrender, Daehyun walked out of the chamber. Captain Ji-won followed him into the corridor. Sir, she said quietly, what do we do now? We go home, Daehyun replied. We tell our people what happened here, and we prepare for war. War? But the council just voted for negotiation. The council voted to feed people to monsters. Humanity will not be part of that decision. He looked back at the chamber where aliens were already arguing about which species should contribute the most tribute. They can make whatever deals they want. But when the Veltar come for human worlds, they'll find us ready to fight. Even if we stand alone, especially if we stand alone. Some fights are worth having even if you can't win. And sometimes the only way to stop a monster is to show it that you're not afraid to die fighting. As they walked toward the docking bay where their ship waited, Daehyun thought about Haven's Rest. 2.3 million people who had died because they couldn't fight back. If he had anything to say about it, the Veltar would find their next human target much less helpless. The age of appeasement had begun for 847 species. For humanity, the age of resistance was just starting. Admiral So Young stood in the command center of the Busan's Fury, humanity's largest warship. Around her, the Human Defense Council had gathered for an emergency meeting. The holographic displays showed star maps with red zones marking Veltar territory, which was growing larger every day. Report, she said to General Daehyun, who was reviewing the latest intelligence data. It's worse than we thought, the general replied. The Veltar have hit 17 worlds in the past week. The death count is approaching 50 million beings. Every attack follows the same pattern. Total extermination, organ harvesting, and a demand for tribute from neighboring systems. Admiral So Young studied the tactical displays. What about the Galactic Council's response? They're still preparing their tribute delegation. 3 days of meetings to decide who gets sacrificed first. Daehyun's voice was filled with disgust. They're actually arguing about quotas. How many beings each species should contribute annually. Commander Yunji of Human Intelligence stepped forward. "Admiral, we've intercepted some Veltar communications. The universal translators are having trouble with their language, but we've learned enough to understand their real intentions." "Show me." The display changed to show decoded alien transmissions. The text was rough, but the meaning was clear. The Veltar weren't just demanding tribute. They were planning the systematic harvesting of the entire galaxy. Every species would eventually be reduced to breeding populations, kept alive only to produce organs for Veltar biotechnology. "They see us all as livestock," Yunji explained. "The tribute system is just the first step. Once they have enough biological material, they plan to set up harvesting facilities on every inhabited world." Dr. Yu Jin, head of human xenopsychology, brought up another display. "I've been studying their brain scans from the DNA data we collected. Their neural structure is completely different from any known species. The parts of the brain that handle empathy, cooperation, and social bonding are either missing or severely underdeveloped." "What does that mean in practical terms?" asked Admiral So Young. "It means they literally cannot understand why we would refuse their demands. To them, the choice is simple. Give us what we want or we'll kill you and take it anyway. They don't comprehend concepts like justice, mercy, or moral principles." General Do-hyun pulled up more tactical data. "Here's what the tribute system looks like in numbers. They want 100,000 sentient beings per world per year, plus 70% of all refined metals and energy production. For a major world like Earth, that means sacrificing the entire population of New Tokyo every year." "And the Council species are actually considering this?" Admiral So Young asked. "They've already started preliminary negotiations. The Anthari are offering to build special facilities for processing volunteers. The Braxi want to implement a lottery system. The Gorvani are discussing which conquered species they could offer instead of their own people." Admiral So Young closed her eyes and thought about her own family. Her daughter lived on the farming world of New Seoul. Her parents had retired to the peaceful moon of Harmony Station. The idea of putting any of them on a list for Veltar harvesting made her feel sick with rage. "What about our military options?" she asked. Do-hyun activated a new set of displays. "We have 200 active warships plus another 500 in reserve. Our total military personnel is about 50 million across all branches. We also have the old defense platforms around Earth and the major colonies." "That doesn't sound like enough to fight an enemy that can field 50,000 soldiers for a single planet." "It's not, but we have some advantages. Our weapons technology is different from the other Council species. While they've focused on non-lethal solutions and honor-based combat, humans have always built our weapons for total war," Commander Yunji added. "The other species have safety protocols built into their weapons. Automatic shutoffs to prevent too much destruction, surrender recognition systems, prisoner protection features. Human weapons don't have those limitations." "Because we've never needed them," Admiral So Young said grimly. "When humans fight, we fight to win." Dr. Yu Jin brought up psychological profiles of the Council species. "That's another advantage. Every other species in the galaxy evolved as either prey animals or cooperative pack hunters. Humans are persistence predators. We're designed to chase something until it dies from exhaustion." "The Veltar have never faced anything like us," Do-hyun agreed. "They're used to species that surrender when faced with overwhelming force. They've probably never encountered a species that becomes more dangerous when cornered." Admiral So Young walked to the main display and studied the star map. Red zones showed Veltar territory. Blue zones showed human space. Between them lay the territories of 847 species that had voted to appease the killers. "Recommendations?" she asked. "We need to activate the total war protocols," Do-hyun said. "Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. We also need to restart the factories on Luna and begin mass production of warships." "What about the Council? If we start military preparations, they'll accuse us of violating the peace accords." "Let them," Commander Unji replied. "They've already decided to feed innocent people to monsters. Their opinion doesn't matter anymore." Admiral So Young thought about the choice in front of her. If she activated the total war protocols, humanity would be committed to fighting the Veltar regardless of the cost. There would be no negotiation, no surrender, no backing down. It would be victory or extinction. But the alternative was watching helplessly as billions of innocent beings were harvested like crops. It was seeing her own daughter's name on a tribute list someday. It was accepting that some evils were too big to fight. Dr. Eugene, she said, in your professional opinion, is there any possibility of peaceful coexistence with the Veltar? None whatsoever. Their psychology makes it impossible. They see other species the same way we see cattle. You can't negotiate with a farmer about the rights of his livestock. And if we fight them, we'll probably lose. They have superior numbers and technology, but humans have something they've never encountered before, the willingness to die rather than submit. Admiral So Young nodded slowly. General Do Hyun, activate Total War Protocols. Commander Yunji, send messages to every human world. Tell them what's coming and tell them to prepare. What about the council species? Asked Do Hyun. Send them a simple message. Humanity rejects any tribute system. We will not negotiate with killers. We will not feed our people to monsters. And we will not stand by while they do the same to others. That's basically a declaration of war against both the Veltar and the Council, Yunji pointed out. Good, Admiral So Young replied. It's time the galaxy learned something about human nature. We don't compromise with evil. We don't bargain with murderers. And we don't surrender to monsters no matter how big they are. As the orders went out across human space, Admiral So Young looked at the star map one more time. In a few days, the peaceful blue zones would be replaced with red battle indicators. The Veltar would learn what happened when they threatened a species that refused to be prey. She just hoped it would be enough. Ambassador Vexhai of the Kelty species felt nervous as his diplomatic ship approached the coordinates where they were supposed to meet the Veltar fleet. Behind him sat representatives from 12 different council species, all chosen to negotiate the tribute arrangements. Broadcasting on all frequencies, announced the ship's communications officer. We are a peaceful diplomatic mission from the Galactic Council. We request permission to board your command vessel for negotiations. The response came quickly. A rough, translated voice filled the bridge. You may approach. Prepare for his inspection. Vexhai didn't like the way they said inspection, but the Council had given him clear orders. Negotiate whatever deal was necessary to prevent more attacks. The death toll was already over 70 million beings across 23 worlds. Their ship docked with a massive Veltar biovessel that looked more like a living creature than a machine. The hull pulsed with veins and arteries. Strange organic tubes connected different sections. As they walked through the corridors, Vexhai noticed the walls were warm and slightly moist, as if they were inside some giant animal. The Veltar delegation was waiting in what might have been a conference room. The aliens were even more terrifying in person than in the recordings. 7 feet tall, with chitinous armor covering their insectoid bodies, forearms ending in sharp claws, eyes that looked at the council representatives like they were examining cuts of meat. I am war leader Kethvar, the largest Veltar announced through a translation device. You come to discuss tribute? Yes, Vexhai replied, trying to keep his voice steady. The Galactic Council is prepared to negotiate reasonable tribute payments in exchange for peace. No negotiation, Kethvar said flatly. Only submission. You give what we demand or you die. Elder Crix of the Anthari stepped forward. Surely we can find a compromise that benefits both our peoples. Kethvar tilted his head as if confused by the concept. You misunderstand. We do not benefit from your survival. You exist only to serve our needs. The council representatives exchanged worried glances. This wasn't going the way they had hoped. What exactly do you need from us? Asked Councillor Yeth of the Braxi. Biological material. Your organs power our technology. Your genetic code improves our breeding programs. Your fear makes the harvest more efficient. Vexhai felt sick. How many beings would you require? All of them, eventually. But we understand the importance of sustainable harvesting. We will take only 100,000 per world per cycle, plus breeding specimens for our facilities. Breeding specimens, whispered the Telkari representative. Your children. They must be raised in our facilities to ensure proper organ development. We have found that fear and pain improve the quality of harvested material. The conference room fell silent. These weren't negotiations. This was a discussion about the best way to farm sentient beings. This is monstrous, Vexhai said quietly. We cannot agree to such terms. Then you will die, Kethvar replied simply. We will demonstrate. Before anyone could react, Veltar soldiers entered the room. The council representatives tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. The aliens moved with terrible efficiency, using strange weapons that paralyzed their victims without killing them. Vexhai found himself unable to move as the Veltar began their demonstration. They started with Elder Crix, carefully removing his crystalline organs while broadcasting the procedure across all council communication channels. The Elder's screams echoed through the ship as the aliens explained which parts were most useful for their biotechnology. Throughout the galaxy, billions of beings watched in horror as their diplomatic representatives were slowly and methodically harvested. The Veltar provided running commentary, explaining their techniques and discussing the quality of each organ system. "This is our answer to your negotiations," Kethvar announced to the cameras. "You have 1 galactic standard day to begin tribute payments. Any world that refuses will receive the same treatment as Haven's Rest." Meanwhile, in human space, Captain Dongwook of the destroyer Inchen's Wrath was patrolling the outer edge of the new Jeju system when his sensors detected unknown contacts. 5 large bioships were approaching the colony, broadcasting the now familiar Veltar demands. "This is War Leader Sektar of the Veltar Collective," came the transmission. "You will surrender immediately and prepare for tribute collection. Resistance will result in total extermination." Captain Dongwook looked at his tactical display. New Jeju was home to 3 million human colonists, including his own sister and her family. The Veltar ships were massive, each one larger than his destroyer. "This is Captain Dongwook of the human vessel Inchen's Wrath," he replied. "This is our response to your demands." He didn't waste words explaining human principles or making threats. Instead, he launched every weapon his ship carried directly at the lead Veltar vessel. Fusion torpedoes, plasma cannons, and kinetic kill vehicles streaked across space toward the alien fleet. The Veltar were caught completely off guard. Their bioships had thick armor designed to resist energy weapons, but human kinetic weapons punched through like bullets through paper. The lead ship cracked open, spilling atmosphere and biological fluids into space. "Impossible," Sektar broadcast. "You dare attack us? We will harvest your organs while you still live." "You're welcome to try," Dongwook replied, launching his second wave of weapons. The engagement lasted 4 minutes. When it was over, all 5 Veltar ships were debris floating in space. But before they died, they had transmitted everything back to their collective, including humanity's response to their demands. On the other side of human space, Captain Siwoo of the Gwangju Rising was investigating the wreckage of a Gorvani fleet that had tried to stop a Veltar raid. The mighty warrior species had sent their best ships and most experienced crews. The battle had lasted less than an hour. "Captain," his science officer reported, "I think I know why the other council species are losing so badly." "Show me." The analysis was sobering. Gorvani weapons were designed for honorable combat between military forces. They had safety systems to prevent civilian casualties, protocols for accepting surrender, and built-in limitations based on warrior codes that had evolved over thousands of years. Their weapons literally shut down if the target tries to surrender, Siwoo's officer explained. They can't target civilian areas. They have maximum casualty limits programmed into their targeting systems. "What about our weapons?" "Human weapons don't have any of those restrictions. They're designed for total war, complete destruction of anything that threatens human survival." Siwoo thought about the implications. Every other species in the galaxy had evolved past the need for weapons of total destruction. They had developed civilized ways of fighting that minimized casualties and preserved honor. Humans had never bothered with civilized warfare. When they fought to completely eliminate the threat. That's why the Veltar are winning so easily, he realized. They're fighting enemies who are programmed to show mercy. But they've never faced an enemy that matches their own brutality. As reports of the failed diplomatic missions spread across the galaxy, the truth became clear. There would be no negotiation with the Veltar, no compromise, no peaceful solution. The Council species prepared to implement their tribute systems, hoping to buy time and maybe find another solution. But in human space, the response was very different. Admiral So-young received Captain Dongwook's battle report and smiled grimly. "Send a message to all human fleets," she ordered. "The Veltar just learned something important about human nature. We don't surrender to monsters. We kill them." The galaxy was about to discover what happened when an unstoppable force met an immovable object. The Veltar had conquered dozens of worlds through fear and overwhelming violence. Now they were going to face a species that had never learned how to be afraid. Fleetmaster Kekthon led the largest invasion force in Veltar history toward the human home system. 10,000 bioships filled space, each one carrying hundreds of warriors bred for conquest and harvesting. The humans had destroyed several scout fleets, but Kekthon was confident this would end their resistance. These humans fight well for prey animals, he told his war council, but they cannot stand against the full might of the collective. We will harvest their homeworld and use their genetic material to create better warriors. His fleet had already conquered 47 worlds since the failed council negotiations. The tribute system was working perfectly for species that submitted. Those that resisted were completely exterminated, their populations harvested for biological resources. But the humans kept fighting. Every attack on human space met fierce resistance. The Veltar had lost more ships in human territory than in all their other conquests combined. War Leader, his communications officer, reported, "We are receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Show me these defiant prey." The hologram displayed Admiral So Young standing on the bridge of her flagship. Behind her, Kekthon could see dozens of human warships arranged in battle formation. They looked small compared to his massive biovessels. "I am Admiral So Young of the Human Defense Fleet," she announced. "You have murdered innocent people across this galaxy. You have butchered children for their organs. You have committed genocide against dozens of species. And now we will do the same to your pathetic race," Kekthon replied. "Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick." "We don't surrender to murderers," So Young said simply. "We end them." The transmission cut off. Kekthon laughed at the foolishness of these humans. They had perhaps 200 ships against his 10,000. Their defiance would make the harvest more entertaining. "All fleets begin the attack. Leave no human alive." The Veltar armada surged forward, bioweapons charging and ready to deliver death. But as they closed the distance, something unexpected happened. The human ships didn't retreat or try to hide. Instead, they accelerated directly toward the much larger Veltar fleet. "Impossible," muttered one of Kekthon's war leaders. "They're charging us? With those small ships?" The first human vessel to make contact was the Soul's Vengeance, commanded by Captain Jae-sung. His ship was already heavily damaged from fighting through the Veltar outer defenses, but he didn't slow down. For Haven's Rest, Jae-sung broadcast on all frequencies. "For every child you murdered." His ship slammed directly into the center of Kekthon's formation, triggering a nuclear explosion that vaporized 3 biovessels and crippled a dozen more. The captain had turned his own ship into a guided missile. More human ships followed, each one willing to die if it meant taking Veltar vessels with them. The aliens had never seen anything like it. In all their conquests, no species had ever been willing to throw away their own lives just to hurt their enemies. "They're insane," one of Kekthon's officers reported. "Their ships are ramming us on purpose." "Destroy them all," Kekthon ordered. "Show them the price of defiance." But the human attack was just beginning. As his bioships tried to target the suicidal human vessels, other human ships opened fire with weapons the Veltar had never encountered before. Dr. Sung-ho's research team had been studying captured Veltar technology for weeks. They had discovered that the aliens' bioships were vulnerable to specifically designed viruses that could turn their living vessels against them. Commander Mi Young led a squadron of fighters in a desperate attack run against Kekthon's flagship. Her ships were tiny compared to the massive biovessel, but they carried the new bioweapons. "This is for every innocent person you butchered," she broadcast as her fighter squadron dove through a storm of alien fire. Half her ships were destroyed before they reached their target. But Mi Young pressed on. Her ship was burning and her controls were failing. But she managed to get close enough to launch the bioweapon directly into the flagship's organic hull. The virus began spreading immediately, turning the ship's own biological systems against it. "Ma'am," her co-pilot said, as their fighter broke apart around them, "it was an honor flying with you." "The honor was mine," Mi Young replied. "Tell my family I died fighting monsters." The bioweapon spread through the Veltar flagship like a plague. The ship's organic systems began shutting down as the virus corrupted its biological computer networks. Similar attacks were happening throughout the alien fleet as human fighters delivered their deadly payload. For the first time in their species' history, the Veltar fleet began to retreat. Ships that had never known defeat were pulling back from an enemy they couldn't understand. "How is this possible?" Kekthon demanded as his own ship shuddered from the virus infection. "They're just prey animals. They should fear us. War leader, his science officer reported. These humans don't think like other species. Their psychology is completely different. They become more dangerous when cornered, not less. Then we kill them all, every last one. But his fleet was already breaking apart. The bioweapons were spreading from ship to ship, and the human vessels continued their suicidal attacks. Every time a Veltar ship thought it had destroyed a human vessel, that ship would ram into them at the last second. Admiral So Young watched the battle from her bridge as her fleet paid a terrible price for every Veltar ship they destroyed. More than half her vessels were gone, but the alien invasion force was in full retreat. Admiral, her tactical officer reported, their command ship is trying to escape. Not today, So Young replied. All remaining ships target the flagship. No survivors, ma'am, that will put us directly in the path of their weapons. I know, but someone has to draw the line. Someone has to show these monsters that there are species in this galaxy who will not be harvested. The final engagement was brutal. Admiral So Young's ship traded fire with Kekthan's flagship as both vessels died around their crews. The human admiral's last transmission echoed across the battlefield. Tell the galaxy, humans don't bargain with killers. We end them. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire that could be seen from Earth's surface. When the battle was over, 90% of the Veltar invasion fleet was destroyed or retreating. The cost to humanity was terrible. Entire fleets wiped out, thousands of brave soldiers dead. But they had achieved something no other species had managed. They had made the Veltar afraid. 3 days later, Ambassador Daehyun stood before the Galactic Council chamber. The hall was strangely quiet as he delivered his report. The Veltar Collective has withdrawn from all human space, he announced. Their demands for tribute have ceased. Their raids have stopped. Elder Crix of the Anthari spoke in a whisper. How? Our greatest fleets couldn't stop them. How did you defeat such monsters? We didn't defeat them, Daehyun replied. We showed them something they had never seen before. A species that would rather die fighting than live as slaves. But at what cost? Asked Counselor Yeth. Your losses were enormous. Yes, they were. But every human who died in that battle saved millions of others from being harvested. Sometimes the price of standing up to evil is everything you have. The chamber remained silent. For months, these species had been arguing about tribute quotas and harvesting schedules. They had convinced themselves that negotiating with monsters was the practical choice. Now they realized they had been wrong. The Veltar hadn't wanted negotiation. They had wanted submission. And once a species submitted, there was no going back. What happens now? Asked General Vorthak of the Gorvani hegemony. Now you have a choice, Daehyun said. You can continue paying tribute to killers, hoping they'll be satisfied with whatever scraps you throw them. Or you can remember what you learned here, that some fights are worth having even if the odds are against you. And if the Veltar return, then you'll know where to find us. Humanity will always stand against monsters, no matter how big they are or how impossible the fight seems. As Daehyun left the council chamber, he thought about Admiral So Young and all the brave humans who had died defending their principles. They had paid the ultimate price to teach the galaxy a simple lesson. Evil could only succeed when good people chose to do nothing. And humanity would never make that choice. The Veltar might return someday stronger and more prepared. But they would remember what they learned at Earth, that in a galaxy full of prey species they had finally found true predators. The Council could choose appeasement if they wanted. Humanity would choose to fight.